So, beginning with our topic and the purpose of why we are here is to talk about um, the survivors of emotional abuse, which is not that well recognized compared to other forms of abuse that an individual can go through. People go through other forms of abuse as well, like it could be something like physical abuse that individual could have gone through. Physical abuse is hitting the partner, and showing some kind of brutality. So all that is like quite visible. When it is physical, it is quite visible. But those forms can be recognized easily and it can be addressed, and people do know that this happens. But when it comes to emotional abuse, it's a more kind of sensitive area which is untouched and not recognizable by many people. And moreover, many of us, I mean, I'm talking about people from the non psychology background who do not have awareness of certain things, are not able to recognize the fact that there is something called as emotional abuse, and they also don't recognize the fact that they are being emotionally abused. So, to have a clear idea about this is what is emotional abuse. Even like my emotions are very important as much as my body is important, or like anyone causes any kind of damage to me, which is quite visible outside. So, emotional abuse can most of the time not be very visible. It takes a lot of time for us to really understand that we are being emotionally abused, and it becomes quite a difficult thing for an individual's survival when this kind of an abuse happens, because it is, and I mean, it is caused by the partner. When it is caused by the partner, it becomes even more difficult for that individual in terms of survival. And here, by mentioning the term partner, we are not gender biased here. It can happen to males as well as it can happen to females. Both can be victims of emotional abuse. So, a little bit of understanding that we are going to get today is about there can be many people who are victims of emotional abuse, and for us to first step is to recognize that we are going through a emotional abuse. To recognize whether we are going through an emotional abuse or not, it is important for us to know a little bit about the partner and also to know what they are doing to us. Just to recognize whether this is what is happening to me. So let us take it very slow, step by step, to understand different conditions of people who can cause abuse to us. Not anyone who is in a very healthy form of mindset can cause abuse. When I'm a like self-sufficient person and I'm in a very healthy mindset, it's not possible for me to, and there's no necessity for me to abuse my partner. Somewhere, if there is no sufficiency in a particular area, and somewhere I feel there is a lag within me, something within me is not very healthy. um, something like my mindset is not working in a healthy way, that is pushing me to a point that I feel that uh, need need to be rude to someone, or not understanding to someone, or use different methods in which I can make the other person feel bad about themselves, or whatever be the situation. So what can cause your spouse to abuse you? There can be various reasons, like alcohol consumption, or substance abuse, which the person has. Substance abuse can be any form of drugs which the person is using for quite a long time. Maybe we were not aware of it at the time of marriage, or the person has been alcoholic for a very long time. And as you know, alcoholism also comes under I mean alcohol addiction, or whether it is any kind of drug addiction, or even cigarette addiction, all this comes under mental health disorders. It is considered as a mental health disorder, for which treatment, the appropriate treatment by a psychiatrist or a psychologist, any mental health professional, can help that individual to come out of it. But here we are talking about something even more bigger, which an individual can have, which sometimes we are not aware of, because the concept of personality disorders itself can be new to many people. I would request you to just make a note of, like, whatever queries you have as I'm talking to you. As I'm talking to you, please make a note of certain queries, so that maybe like when I will stop by 6:40, and we can take the 20 minutes where we can keep the session interactive, where you can ask me some questions and doubts about whatever you feel, whatever you have in your mind, and whatever you want to clarify. And the audience in this group are mostly people who are into sociology, psychology background, or people who want to help people who are going through an abuse, or we ourselves can be going through something like this, or we just want more clarity about it. So we have, it's a mixed group, it's a mixed population, where we have students, professionals, um, men and women. So it's only an exchange of information, where we are trying to help ourselves and other people. So when we take personality disorders, in Tamil we call it as Gunakolaru Noigal. So Gunam means what? The basic character of that individual. So like all of us know how each individual is shaped today. How Swati Priya can be different from any other person here. Maybe whether it is Ovia or Aarti or Manikanda, whoever. So how Swati Priya can be a different person is based on my genes. Genetically, we are very different people. Each of us have different forms of genes. It's like we are inheriting certain from our mother, certain from our father. It is only it is not only the mother and father, because your mother and father are carriers of a mixed pool of genes again. Grandparents, your uncle, aunt, chitti, chittappa, perima, peripa, atta, who are all biologically related to us, blood relatives. And so that is one thing. So anyone in that particular family where you're in, I mean your spouse's family, or that individual who is causing an abuse, who may have these traits. Just because we are having this discussion, we're not coming to a conclusion that your spouse is having a personality disorder. We are just trying to understand personality disorder, so that it will give us some throw some light on whether the spouse, whether you can be even a mental health professional who's a beginner or a budding counselor who just is trying to understand whether that particular individual's spouse can be someone who has personality disorder. But finally, who can give you the diagnosis? Who can give us a diagnosis? Again, a mental health professional, and someone with a who can give you a return diagnosis that this person is suffering from a mental health disorder. One thing is, can be a clinical psychologist can give you a written diagnosis, and a psychiatrist can give you a written diagnosis. Most of the time, this cannot be something which can be treated with medicines. So one thing I told you was, through genes we are different people. Second thing which makes us character, what builds our character, is the kind of life experiences we had from childhood. What kind of life experiences we had, how was our brought up, how was our immediate family, how were people in our circle, what kind of schooling we received, what kind of friends we had, what kind of education we received, who were our parental figures, not only parents, other than parents, who all are the people who influenced us, what kind of work environment we are into, what exposure we got. All this has made us today what we are. And here, very importantly, I want to talk about cluster B personality disorder. Cluster B personality disorder. In this type, you can see people marked by inappropriate, volatile emotionality. Say, like, as spouse, as a spouse, generally what we expect from a spouse is mainly the emotional connection. Even during when the period when we were in a love relationship with an individual, it could be that we are looking for that. Most of us are looking for emotional intimacy. We want that emotional connectivity with the person. So sometimes it can be volatile in people who are showing some traits of personality disorder. Maybe they're very excited at one time. Maybe they don't show that same excitement throughout. They're little cold at times, and maybe some warm at a few times, which leads to confusion. But in the very beginning, it's very difficult for us to find out whether it's a kind of disorder or not. In the beginning stages, it's difficult for us to know what it is, because it's too quick to just come to a conclusion about what the person is doing, and it takes some time for us to get that understanding. So often some unpredictable behaviors, sometimes we wouldn't have taken it much serious also, but it could have shown this kind of behavior towards the spouse. So I told you I was speaking to you about this cluster B personality disorders. Under that, there are different types of disorders. Today, we are going to look into a little bit of these narcissistic tendencies and narcissistic traits of people, and what kind of treatment they give us. That is, if there is an individual who has this kind of traits, how they exhibit it to the partner. I'm again telling you, it's gender neutral. So a female can do it to a male can also do it to a female. So we are talking about narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse. So what is this narcissistic abuse? An abusive pattern of behavior which involves certain stages: idealization, devaluing, repeating the cycle, discarding them. So, we will look into each of these steps in depth for our better understanding about what it means. I'm taking this program for 10 hours. Why? Because just in a session, I can only give you little bit of information, and our brain too takes a little bit of time to process that information. You can be even a people helping professional. For you to analyze and understand and grasp what it is with some practical examples will be easy for you to take it to further. And if you feel that somewhere your own spouse is doing this to you, then it also takes some time for you to keep a check on what it is and if it is happening to you or not, or somebody in your known circle is going through this. So for you to get that understanding, it is very necessary for you to stay a little bit focused when we are going through each of the stages. And thereby I'm giving a very detailed explanation about the every stage so that it's easy for us to understand or come to an conclusion that this is happening or it's not happening. And we are not giving any diagnosis here. We are only trying to help individuals who are survivors. Victim is until you don't recognize what it is and you keep crying over whatever happens, and the person is isolating or feeling bad or is like really wallowing in grief for whatever happened to them, is only the victim state. From that victim state, when we become a survivor is when we are facing it, when we are dealing with it, which can be even more tougher because it becomes tough for the abuser as well. When you are standing up for yourself, it becomes even more tough for the survivor. Until you are a victim, it is very comfortable for the abuser. So people generally who are into this kind of pulling people inside this narcissistic abuse pattern generally do this love bombing. Many a times it can happen that there is some love at first sight. As soon as I saw you, I fell in love with you. And in the beginning of the romantic relationship, there is not enough time for the partner to understand whether the other person is doing love bombing or not. So they compliment you so much, and to the extent they praise you, and they're like they totally flatter you and do whatever you like, because they would have had some little bit understanding. With whatever little bit understanding they have about you, they know what you like. They like they know what you like to be appreciated for or recognized for, or what you like gifts or any form of outing, or you what you like, what is your pattern of a kind of what would you like to receive. And always like talking about your uniqueness and making you feel special and talking very special about you, and also give statements like they're totally fallen for you. Maybe say that you look like you fully look like that particular heroine whom I admire the most. And some might say that you just look like my mother, so I like you a lot. I just fell in love with you the moment I saw you. You have so many qualities like my father, so when I first time spoke with you itself, I got very much impressed with it. And that's how I fell for you. So they may give you such statements which are very a kind of like maybe justified to you. And they will also talk about they may talk about destiny. You're predestined for me, you're born, we both are born for each other. And that is how future has created us to be together, to live together. That is why, that is the very purpose of our birth. This kind of statements they can do. All this comes under love bombing. So when they're making these conversations with us, we may feel that maybe the person is really innocent, and it may be, it appear like it's quite appealing to us also. Though some controlling tactics may be present very early, we don't recognize it. because it takes time for us. For example, okay, when you're having a very casual conversation with them, when you have moved on to the next stage where you're going to get into a marital relationship, many a times you might find that they want to break that boundaries which you have set. Maybe you feel that, or maybe you also expressed that this is my work timing. Once I finish with that, I will get in connect with you. Suppose if you say that statement to them, it can be a male who's telling this statement or a female who's telling this statement to the partner. Once my work is completed, once my official work is completed, I'll get in touch with you. Is something that you convey to them. Okay, so it's a boundary, professional boundary, personal boundary. Still, you've not even got into your marriage life. You're in the process of getting into the marriage life. Maybe you're engaged to the person. So at that stage, they may say statements like, work is more important to you than me. How can work be more important than your wife? How can your work be more important than your husband? No, this is what is more important. And sometimes maybe you want to, everyone has their own social life. Maybe you're someone who wants to be engaged with your friends for some quality time. You want to spend some quality time with your friends. Maybe you went for a movie with your friends. So this partner might get really offended because of whatever you did. I must be your first priority. How can you do that? How are you able to break the ties with me and not like giving that kind of importance to me, but you consider your friends more important? They may put on such questions whether who is more important to you, your friends or me? Such statements can be there. And what is more important to you, your work or me? Oh, then I'm not important. Am I not important to you? These kind of questions they might ask in the relationship, which we might may not have taken it very seriously in the beginning. But as life progresses and you're getting married to this person, they get becoming your spouse, at that time it becomes more complicated. So they might get triggered and angry when that kind of attraction or response towards them, or that kind of always attention, I must be your first priority, or whatever, that is not somewhere, my ego is not satisfied with whatever response you are giving me. I must be your priority. And when you are maintaining certain boundaries and you are giving equal importance to professional life, social life, and me time, all this, some people having these kind of traits are not able to accept it. So, as I mentioned earlier, whatever questions you have and doubts you have, please make a note of it, because we have this question and answer time towards the end of the session. Okay, so how can they be emotionally abusive? People generally who are self satisfied or satisfied with their own self um, don't have to like show off to others that I'm a big person, I'm a rich person, or I'm such a competent person in my career. What a great kind of like domain I've developed for myself, and do you know like what kind of a person I am? This kind of conversations, generally people self satisfied, self sufficient people will not talk this way. But people who have some kind of inferiority about whatever their skills are, somewhere they are not able to acknowledge, they themselves are not able to acknowledge themselves. These people can have a grandiose sense of self, that I'm a very important person, to just compensate for that inferiority. Generally people who have these kind of personality disorder traits, can be very fragile personalities. Inside they will be easily breakable, and like they are not actually happy. They themselves are not happy people. When they show these traits, they themselves inwardly are not happy. So when I'm not happy inside, I cannot keep the other person happy. I cannot tolerate sometimes when the other person is happy, because I am not happy and I'm not very satisfied or self sufficient um, about what I am and who I am. Unreasonable expectations of favorable treatment. Sometimes, like you don't recognize what you are doing. See, whatever you radiate in a relationship is what you're getting back. So when I'm radiating love, care, trust, respect to my partner will be in a place to radiate it. So that is a kind of mutual relationship. Sometimes I don't treat my partner properly. I don't express any kind of love after a point of time. Maybe I don't care for the other person. I mean, the partner. Suppose if I verbally talk ill about the person right in front of them, on the face I talk. But in return, I still expect them to be nice to me. Maybe a husband does this and always puts the wife down. But still, I feel that I am entitled to get favorable treatment. You have to make special tea for me, whatever the kind of flavor I like, that flavor tea. As soon as I get up in the morning, you're supposed to serve it for me. Or say that whatever I like, you haven't prepared. So maybe the wife is offended because of the statements which the husband said, like maybe you're useless, you're good for nothing, like unwantedly, like I married you, I should have married someone else, I got so many proposals, but at last I ended up marrying you. Maybe you said, maybe that the husband said that kind of statements to the wife. After telling all this, maybe that woman is feeling hurt. Maybe she's not motivated enough to come and work in the kitchen. And when you do all this, and in just the next very day, you wake up in the morning and you're placing these unrealistic and unreasonable expectations to the person, like you like making a pretense like nothing happened, and you want your tea in the morning to be served to you, you want your favorite breakfast, and you want lunch to be packed to office. That is unreasonable expectation of favorable treatment. So this can happen vice versa also. The wife, maybe she hurt the husband by saying statements like, you're good for nothing, you're useless, I should have married someone else, I got many proposals, unwantedly, like I married a guy who's so useless like you, I shouldn't have married you, my ex-boyfriend was better than you, I thought you were a better person than him, so I got married to you. Maybe such statements, the wife says, and the very next morning she wants the husband to smile at her and talk and say goodbye before going to office. That is an unreasonable expectation of favorable treatment. You did not give it, but you are expecting it back. And a marked lack of empathy for others. Empathy is to realize that emotion, when I talk something, how the other person will feel. Many of us do these mistakes, like we shout at people when we are getting angry. Sometimes we talk back, whether it is with our spouse, we talk back, we get into an argument. Once we realize that we hurt the other person, generally people we like we go say sorry. Hey, sorry. Like some, I was like really upset with something else which I showed on you. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, and trying to convince them by taking them out, or just talking nicely to them, or coming and playing with them. You know, such things people can engage in. So like but people who have these kind of abusive thoughts, and like the kind of person they are, they don't feel the pain of the other person. When I spoke rudely to the other person, when I ill treated the other person, I don't feel that the other person is undergoing pain. I don't understand that pain what the other person is going through. Maybe I'm not making an effort to understand it even when that other person is verbally conveying it to me. Verbally, maybe the husband says that I'm feeling very hurt because you said this to me. Okay, and maybe the husband is watching the wife cry, but he doesn't want to take any effort to go and say sorry or just console the wife and say not to cry. Maybe the person was not in a place to do it immediately also. At least after some time they can go and like talk to them, try to convince them, console them. So when will somebody exhibit this kind of behavior is when they really understand that they have hurt the other person and the other person is undergoing pain. Only when I understand that the other person is going through pain, I will make an effort to do something. I'm not concerned or I'm least bothered about it. Or sometimes also some characters, some people who have narcissistic traits can also feel happy about it for having taken control over you. Have taken control over you by making you cry or making you break emotionally. So that can also happen. Obviously when people are like this, they might have difficulty in maintaining interpersonal relationships. And if we have the closer look at individuals with this kind of traits, narcissistic traits. Here we are only talking about narcissism. We have not touched other cluster B personality traits yet. So, so this can be expressed at home, at workplace, and in the community. Community means in the society where we are living. To some extent, only we can hide ourselves. To some extent, only we can mask ourselves. But after a certain period, maybe it's all like exposed or let out. Common manipulation techniques that narcissists may use during idealization stage include faking empathy. I told you know the love bombing stage which we were talking about. The love bombing stage, they can fake empathy. They can also show that I understand your pain or kind of behavior just because they want to get that person. They want to create a good impression so that the person starts believing the abuser and accept them. The abuser here is the person who's displaying the narcissistic traits. All this we discussed, and also making false promises. Till the end of the life, I will never let you shed a tear. But the very first week of marriage, the spouse may be shedding tears. Both can cry. Not only women cry, men also cry. Maybe they don't speak about it outside, but they cry. Um, and Copying, sometimes people with narcissistic traits, they are not capable enough to frame their own dialogues. Whatever the whoever they are victimizing, they would have said some statements and they would have said express something. Now they copy that dialogue. They may copy that same dialogue and give it to them. Maybe the victim said that when the victim comes to a survivor's state, the victim directly confronts and says that this is a pattern which you are following always, and you are doing this to me. I'm feeling really hurt about it, and I don't know how to tolerate it, and how many days I'm going to tolerate it, and it is going like really toxic. Is a statement maybe the survivor is giving it to this person. They will copy this exact dialogue, and when a point comes when they are feeling a little low because you spoke back to them, the same dialogue can be repeated to you. I don't know how many days I'm going to stand in this relationship. you are being so toxic towards me, this has become a pattern for you. The same dialogue will come from them. So sometimes it will make the partner feel that this is my dialogue, even you cannot make your own dialogue, why are you copying my dialogue, can be something that they feel. So next, coming to the, we have finished with the idealization state of narcissistic abuse. Number one, we have looked into the um, idealization stage of narcissistic abuse, and we have come to a devaluation stage. This is also known as the depreciation stage. So until I'm buying a particular product, I'm trying to idealize it. But once I have bought the product, now I'm trying to depreciate it. I'm not in a state to appreciate it. So, what can be the indicators? We would have heard of something called as passive aggression. Passive aggression is, we know aggressive people. Aggressive people can scold, they can shout at us, and they can do such things. But people with passive aggression, they will not shout, or they will not hit, or they will not beat, but still they know how to show aggression in a way that it is not visible outside. So, to this passive aggressive people, they're more interested in giving indirect compliments. And they are always used to give excuses for the poor behavior that they exhibited towards a spouse, and very subtle criticisms. Like, for example, maybe they're complimenting you in a way that, oh, today you have cooked, as though you don't cook all the other days. We would have been cooking almost every day, but today you made something special. So they're trying to give you a compliment, but at the same time, they're not giving it wholeheartedly to you. So they're giving that compliment in a way that, oh, today you cooked. No? It's an indication that every day you're making something simple. Today you made something grand. Similarly, if it is a female, oh, you're also capable of getting a promotion. So in the you're complimenting. You want to the intention here can be, or the expectation here from the spouse can be that he wants to be appreciated by the wife for getting the promotion. So what the individual does, oh, even you are capable of getting a promotion. I feel so happy for you. It's a kind of indirect, no, subtle criticism that you're doing, right? So these are some examples of passive aggression. And sometimes when people are not fine, we can very easily pick up the emotion of the spouse when they are not fine from the body language. 30 percentage is only what people converse. 70% we understand from the body language the person is showing us, and the eye contact they're making with us, and when they're having conversations with us, what is the kind of facial expression they maintain. All this plays a very important role for us to understand how the other person is actually. So they may say I'm fine, but are they really fine? When they clearly not, we are able to clearly see that they're not fine, but still no, they say I'm fine. So when you want, I mean that, whether it is a male or a female, when that individual wants their spouse to do a particular work for them, making a pretense like forgetting. Maybe I wanted my spouse to take um, me for a medical checkup for whatever it is, but the spouse is not much interested to engage in that. No, like for example, like I'm not interested to why all this, why is this all necessary. Those days and all, it was not like that. My mother never used to go to doctor very frequently. All can be cured at home if you take the appropriate kind of kashayam or whatever at home, then it will become all right. Why should we go to a doctor? Is some advice that the spouse is giving. But though the husband is saying so, if the wife is very particular that no, it's not like that, but I feel that I definitely need to see a doctor for whatever I'm going through. So, and you please, on the way while you're returning back from office, get an appointment to meet the doctor tomorrow. And for a very long time, maybe the wife has been asking the husband. But after a point, maybe the spouse is no more able to postpone, but he accepts to do it. But then what will happen is, um, the previous day they would have accepted to do it, but they wouldn't have done it. But when they are being questioned about it, they might give a response that, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. But the truth here is they're not interested. They are not convinced with whatever explanation you have given. So they don't know what to say. They don't know how to escape from the situation because they know that they will be questioned. So they give answers like I forgot. So when people are showing this kind of behavior, what generally happens to the person who's going through the abuse? The person who's going through the abuse feels confused whether my spouse is good or bad, and often it leaves us offended when we are being criticized, and when we are being put down and we want to do something but we are stopped from doing it. Even it can be something which we deserve to be appreciated or celebrated or valued for. Even for that, when we are not getting that kind of fair treatment, then the person who's going through this kind of abuse feels offended and drained because try with the other person to make certain things work for the, like the example which I gave for the treatment or the hospital checkup. No, so in that argument and spending time with them to make them do something, when it is something together, when you have to process something together also, it becomes very draining. And if that particular, in this particular example which I gave, if the wife is it's not that if the husband is not able to take her to the doctor, she cannot go to the doctor on her own. But if you surpass the husband and go to the doctor, here he will get even more agitated and angry. So that is why they again keep getting their they want to, no, many of us want to be people pleasers and we want to be accepted by our, especially by our spouse. Indirect displays and unconscious aggressive motive. We don't know why they are angry at us. They can be angry at us for various reasons, but they will not talk straight about it. When two people are able to sit and negotiate about whatever it is and talk about the problem in an assertive way, we don't have to hurt the other person. At the same time, we don't have to dominate the other person, but it can be an exchange of ideas. It can be a friendly conversation still, but people are not giving space for it. People who are showing these kind of traits are not giving space for it. So procrastination is one of the technique they will use. I will not directly say no. I'm a very passive person. I will not directly say no. There are people who will directly say no and fight. That is aggressive or dominant traits which somebody can utilize. But here in this passive aggression, which a person with narcissistic abuse is showing, they will always try to postpone, postpone, postpone. Some of the other reasons they will find to postpone. Expressing grumpiness. No, like always putting a long face. Some women can do it. Like I'm not talking about this particular expressing grumpiness alone for women, because the previous example I gave about a male, now I am choosing to give it to a female. So a woman can be very grumpy on all good days where the husband expects her to celebrate that occasion. It can be a Pongal, Diwali, Krishna Jayanti, Vinayaka Chaturthi. Even like today, we have these crackers bursting outside, and I think women will have a lot of role in lighting the lamps in the house. Today being Kartika Deepam. If there is a woman who knows that the husband's expectation is all this, but she will sit with a grumpy face, she will not do whatever is expected, generally, what is done in the family. That is passive aggression. Putting a sad face, sitting in a corner, wearing the dirtiest cloth on that particular day, good day, and not having a bath, and like no such things can show passive aggression. Or acting stubbornly. You asked me to do this, but I'm not doing it. So maybe I will find some excuse like I'm not well, or I have some office work. Sorry, don't disturb me. But very well, the person knows that the other person is expecting this, and if you don't do it, the person will get hurt. So, intentionally, you want to hurt the other person. So, this is passive aggression. Exert control over situations just in a less direct or recognizable way to express hostility without violence or physical aggression. So, this is what I was talking to you earlier about also. So, we will start with signs and symptoms of passive aggression today. Let us look into silent treatment next class. And towards the end, as we are progressing in our sessions, as we are progressing, let us also learn how that particular survivor can help themselves if this is happening to them. First, we should have a knowledge about what is actually happening and see whether that we like that individual is fitting into the pattern of narcissistic abuse or not. Here we are not, as I told you in the beginning, we are not here to diagnose a particular person, but we are here to find out whether that individual whom you are working with or your own self has this kind of experience, or I mean to just realize that whether there is an emotional abuse happening or not. So, when we have some idea and clarity about it, it is easy for us to confront the person or to self help or to when you're working with someone with this kind of a narcissistic abuse, the takeaway will be how to help that individual better, how to help that survivor. The survivor cannot be in that same state for a very long time, because it is totally devastating the mental health of that particular individual, and especially when there are children in the relationship, it becomes even more difficult. Ghosting you sometimes, totally out of contact, can also happen. They will disappear for some time, maybe when they went to their mother's house or somewhere, okay, and then total no contact. They blocked you on social media, they blocked your phone calls. No, they got into that no contact period for some time, and suddenly they might appear again also. It's also passive aggression. You're not directly talking about it, but you're doing such things. So when this is happening to the partner will obviously feel sad, confused, angry. So it's very difficult to understand what is exactly there in the person's mind. They might be angry at you, but they will never accept the fact that they're angry, making a pretense that they're okay. And so, again, these kind of patterns, passive aggressive patterns, they never accept what they are feeling. They will be in the denial mode, and sometimes they are very hyper vigilant to see that they are they are able to defend themselves. A small trigger is enough for them to start defending themselves, even without a need to defend yourself. Why should you come forward to defend yourself? Because you know what you're doing. So this is what we've been discussing. So let me give it on to you for questions. Any kind of questions or sharing you want to give, you can go ahead. You can also talk about your takeaway or any questions.
Hi,
I want
Swati,
to
this is
add,
Aarti here.
yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, Aarti madam.
Yeah. So, this regarding, so you said the narcissistic personality once identified, right? Um, so, if they, I mean, making them realize they are doing something abusive is very difficult, right? Making them understand that they're hurting someone is really difficult, right? So in that case, how do we handle those people here? Handling those people would be really difficult. They don't understand they're doing something wrong or something. So how do we handle those kind of narcissist
The
personality people?
biggest challenge here is if someone has a personality disorder, or when they are doing this kind of a narcissistic abuse, they don't accept the fact that they're doing something wrong, or it's always the other person is wrong and they're right. Always the other person is only wrong, or it is a situational mistake, they are right. So, when that is the case, it's very difficult to convince that person for treatment, to come for a counseling session or whatever. So, that is why I am not here focusing on the help which we can do to the person with narcissistic personality disorder, but rather than what the survivor can help themselves. And it's also important to notice the intensity of how abusive it is. If it is to an extent that I can tolerate it by drawing boundaries, this is my stand, I put my foot down, and I'm able to maintain this kind of I will sustain in this relationship by putting my foot down and maintaining clear boundaries with you in terms of finances or my career decisions, whatever, and we can continue with the person. It depends on the intensity again. But there are some
Okay.
people, because in this narcissistic abuse itself there are different types of people, different types we have. So certain types, like, we cannot predict what they are going to do when, and it can even go to the extent of severe physical abuse as well. So I'm just talking about the some traits. some traits,
Mm.
but there are even more deeper issues which people can have, where we cannot say that it's okay, still adjust with that person or draw boundaries and go with the person. Certain times we have to put our foot down and also look for legal help. So that's a different thing. So we are talking, we are only here trying to focus on helping that individual to help their own self, and we are not focusing on the person who's causing the abuse right now. That is the agenda of our group discussion.
Correct. So they'll not accept it, right? So it's
Most of
about
them will
how
not.
the survivor, yeah, draw their boundary and how they firmly serve certain things, like if they feel that abuse, right?
Yes, and we are going to also look into how we can actually support the person to help themselves. So those kind of things we are going to look into in the future.
Okay.
Yes, Gomati
Thanks,
ma'am.
Swati.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, they used to distort the reality, ma'am, twist the facts, what is happening. Even we provide all the proofs. You spoke like that. This day, this thing had happened. Whatever we say, no, they will distort the reality. They will say today one thing, they will change it tomorrow in
Yes,
another form. I
there
mean,
can be
to make
inconsistent.
others, yeah, ma'am. But the only thing I feel is self awareness, ma'am. Self awareness and the clarity about their behavior patterns we have to observe. What is the behavior pattern that will make us to protect us? Even boundaries also, it is of no use, ma'am. uh, is of no use. If we start resisting, no, the abuse will be more intense. They search for some other strategies because uh, they knew that we found out the manipulation tactics or whatever. After that, no, they are doing some other things. We couldn't cope up with that. Anytime I have to be in a hyper vigilant mode, like that, alert mode. What is he's going to do next? What I have to answer for that? I have to respond or react or. But one more thing, ma'am, we should not react. Maximum we have to respond to them, or otherwise we have to say okay, I understand. Like that we have to go.
Correct,
But
correct.
finally, it is not. We cannot heal in the sick environment, ma'am. Whatever we set boundaries or we self-awareness, clarity, whatever we learn, but in the sick environment, it is very hard to be with the NPD, narcissistic.
Sometimes, ma'am, even the personality disorder is a
Mm.
spectrum. It's a spectrum.
Okay.
And the spectrumல வந்து
Okay.
like when there are minimal traits exhibited, when there are minimal traits exhibited, maybe there is a possibility to
Yeah.
maintain boundaries. And some people, very
Yes, ma'am.
few people will cooperate for some kind of therapy, whether it is
Yes, ma'am.
counseling or some people might come for some meditation or yoga or breathing or whatever, when it is some
Yes,
personality coaching so on. So they will, obviously there is a chance that um, some people we can put up with, but as you said, most of them it's very
yes.
difficult to put up
Traits,
with.
no, ma'am. It is correct. If they are having some traits, it will be as you said, it can go like that. But if it is more than 6 or 7 behavioral patterns they are using, means it is very hard to. It is really a hell like life now. Poor it may be. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Only lot of things we have to learn about that,
Definitely.
because the individuals may differ. Everyone will differ in their behavior patterns. So accordingly, we have to set the boundaries, because one person's this thing will not suit other. So accordingly, we have to. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Yes, madam, I will provide you with a recording. So as of now, If some of you did not get the time to ask questions, you can get in touch with me on WhatsApp. So if you have a question, whenever I have the time, I will definitely respond to you. And we will be meeting next week, next Wednesday, also at 6. So I request you to have this follow up. Only then, once you finish this 10 hours, you get an understanding on how you can deal with it, which can be helpful for all of us. Feedback form I've not set as of now. So yeah, we'll look into that in the future. You can put your feedbacks in the group. We have a group now. You can put your feedbacks in the group. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for listening to me.